Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us at the seminar hall, my name is Mariam Khaled, and I'll be host for today and for the end of the day. So we're now shifting gears into our second block of sessions, focused on generative AI, with topics ranging from autonomous AI agents to business innovation and the security frontier of language models. But first, we begin with a panel that explores how organizations are bringing data into account strategic aspects. So let me introduce to you the speakers for today. We have the moderator, which is Mr. Nour Eldin Zoghly, Chief Product Officer at Scale by AI. We have Mr. Mohammad Fouad, CTO at Tactful. Dr. Wael Hossam, co-founder at OUTSOURCY. And Mr. Ahmed El-Shafie, Director of Data and Analytics at PwC. And finally, Andrew Haar, right? Managing Director at Fiber Carrier Association. Okay, so this panel brings together leading experts who are navigating how data can drive smarter decisions, scalable operations, and long-term business value. From real-world challenges to proven strategies, the panelists will uncover what it truly means to embed data into the heart of your organization. Please welcome us, the speakers and moderators.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all full and well fed. Okay, so the title of the panel is Turning Data into Strategic Assets. So we start with the most expected question: what makes data strategic, and how to turn it into one?
Is that to me?
Yes.
Thanks a lot. So, data is really a cumbersome topic, and when you talk about how we take data as a strategic asset, two things comes to my mind. Number one, monetization, and this is something that maybe mature organizations have been there very long time, are very rigorously are expanding into this and see how we can get a new revenue stream to the company. We have lots of data, and for example, we have a telecom, digital telecom has massive codes and mobile data, a lot of petabytes of data eventually. And when we talk about how can we sell this data into a lot of interested people with the proper governance and anonymization and this can turn your data into another P&L in the company. It can feed a lot of revenue, and it's a different story when you talk in this language. Second point is data governance, or lack of data governance sometimes. Okay, so it's a bi-directional opportunity. So if we think about no governance, that means simply we don't know what the data we have. So we are missing a lot of potential. There's a gold mine that we are sitting on, and that means a lot of money that we're not digging out. And sometimes lack of governance also make us fall into penalties, or we have a GDPR non-compliance, and we get a huge fine, and then we have a lot of money lost. So money that is not tapped yet, money lost in non-compliance, and monetization is a new revenue stream. This is from my perspective.
Right.
The same question.
The same question.
Well, the same question. Actually, I'm happy to be here to represent the HR, the humans in this equation. And I bet you all know that it's rare to find someone who is in HR and speaks about data and technology and digital transformation. So actually, this is the key behind answering your question, in my mind. To start with the awareness of the integration between the different functions to make the business itself, running right. To understand that data is the real thing that us as leaders for different functions can utilize in our functions. I'll give you an example. My master's degree is in HR, and my doctorate degree is in digital transformation. Why is that? Because I've been inspired by someone that business can't run on functions only. Technology is the common factor between all of us. Hence, data is the thing. So, if we can educate leaders, business leaders, the top management about the integration between data, technology, and their functions, businesses are going to hit the mark strategically, actually. Did I answer? How to turn data into strategic thing?
Mohammad, now have a different and diverse background in working with startups, so I guess your point will be a little bit different.
So we work with e-commerce businesses, large retailers and small businesses alike, and they have a kind of data that's a little bit different, which is social data. Results from campaigns, engagement from customers who talk on Facebook, maybe comment on an ad or a post, maybe they send them a message on WhatsApp. So for us, we look at unstructured data. We call that unstructured data because they didn't fill a form. We look at this data from a perspective of how to analyze it and how to extract insights from it. And the challenge here, which maybe Andrew will touch on, is how to manage the cost and the amount of all this data, and how to provide a real-time experience with this customer. Because when we talk about being untapped, the gold mine here is that your customers want to talk to you. So, and they are sending you signals all over. One of our customers, a very big retailer in Egypt, he will now mention the CEO on LinkedIn or Facebook when they want to complain. So how to manage this amount of traffic? If you are a big retailer and you have a problem in your customer support.
I did that twice, by the way.
Yeah, and Facebooking as well.
Mention what you've been mentioned.
So from that standpoint, I feel like unstructured data is also something we need to consider when we talk about our data strategy.
All right. First of all, thank you. We can do this in English. Because, as I explained, my Arabic is not up to speak yet. But maybe in a few years we have the translator, and it is all making easy. And that's also, again, back to the data as making data into assets, because already there are so many applications. But just to go back to the topic, and for transportation, as you mentioned it, most of my members were association with connecting physical fiber infrastructure between data centers, but also to end users, but also to 5G cell towers, or whatever communication is needed. And they all ask me, say, Andrew, where's the world going to? Because I have to invest in infrastructure that's going to be built out physically into the ground. So if I make my investment now, is it sufficient for the near future? Is it enough? Because what's coming up to us? And then I said, well, okay, I know there's going to be more data transported. Because more data is going to be collected, and more data is going to be resourced and also researched what data we all collected, and then from that research, someone has to transport it from A to B, and that is an asset you can use, and that's also the new possibilities for the near future, how you can make your data into an asset. And I think you mentioned in the free call, you have an example. And at that moment, I did not have an example. But I worked closely with a Dutch astronomy institute, and they came to me. They said, well, I was, for your knowledge, also former owner of a data center, so data center and connectivity. And they said, we want to capture all the stars in the galaxy, and we have the antennas. So, Andrew, you don't have to build the antennas, don't worry about that. But we want to store all that data we capture, and that's massive, on petabytes. It's already a few years ago, and so it was like 10 petabytes a year they were collecting. I said, oh God, yeah, that's a massive, because that's a lot of energy to keep that running. He said, well, yeah, that's the point, Andrew. We want to store it, but it needs to be called storage, because how it works, somewhere in the future, I don't know when, a researcher will come up and say, well, we saw that star explode, or that star phrase we want to explore, and we want to have the raw data, because if it's extracted, and with also not the raw material, you don't have to research anything. So I said, okay, that's really complicated. How do we master that, and how do we work with that? We came up with an idea, and it's a simple idea, the same as Facebook did. Make snapshots of all the star maps, and they said, well, if you want to explore that map, then you can extract the data. And that's, I think, maybe a nice example. So for the research, how can you make that into an asset?
Sure. I think, just to add to our point, if we all think about, we work with, raise your hand if you work in a company, right? If you work in any organization. So the company has assets, right? Like the laptops, like the buildings. How do they treat the assets? You have something like, right? It's cataloged, it's audited, it's really governed. Think about the data. Do the company treat their data as, or even more important than these traditional assets? This is one way to think about it. If it doesn't, because a lot of companies don't, then this is the issue. You're not thinking of your data as a strategic asset. You have to think of it much broader than just a simple, laptop or a desk or something that belongs to the company. And when you look at something like, we have a huge spectrum of how people treat, organizations treat the data. So you have the very immature, the KG, the pre-K, they're just toddlers and they're starting to learn to walk, how to treat the data as an asset. And you have the giants like Facebook, like Netflix. So Netflix, 500,000 ETL jobs run every day. You have 7 trillion records ingested every day. And you are doing analytics and taking action in real time. So you just click pause. There's a recommendation coming back to you. What about this movie? Or you click dislike. You're getting a lot of cycles. So this is also another perspective, how to look at if a company is looking at strategic assets.
So you spoke about governance, and you spoke about the gold mine of untapped data. I wanted to ask about how do you deal with the vast unstructured data in your organization addressing? This question for both Fouad and Ahmed.
So one of the problems that was kind of eliminated by LLMs is that now LLM can go deeper on the understanding of what it means exactly, and can extract different signals like sentiment and all the stuff from one prompt, which is not really realistic. You cannot do everything from the same model. You might use different models for different stuff, but still now you can categorize and catalog the data in a better way than we used to have before. Because before, when we had the promise of NLP and natural language understanding with the traditional models, but it kind of didn't. It needed a massive amount of data to be trained, and every company had to replicate this amount of data for every business. So it was very costly to build. With LLMs now it's much easier, and the level of transformation that people are now saying, why didn't I store all the old data so I can now use it? So that's how people are thinking it. The trick is also having a master data model of sorts. Maybe you need to, or maybe a data lake where you can eventually tag or categorize this data. And I guess there were some panels today or topics today regarding this. That's it.
Do you have something to add?
Yeah, the unstructured, this is a huge thing. We have been there now for 100 years now, dealing with structured data. We mastered it, kind of mastered it, and we did everything that we can do, from analyzing the history, predicting the future. But unstructured is another gold mine. And you talked about tagging the data, which is a huge thing. We talked about it in governance data or in another session. You can do that manually. In the old age, when we started, this is a contract, this is an invoice, this is a rental agreement. And then AI jumps in now and goes crawl everything, and she knows that this is a contract, this is, and then it assigns this invoice with this contract, with this client, from papers. So imagine this is like, I don't call it a data lake, maybe it's a swamp of things, mix of Google Drive. Yeah,
in the Nile.
exactly. It's a Nile data. It's a delta, yeah, that's a good acronym. And AI and GenAI jumps in with proper governance, with proper management. And it really unlocks a lot of cool stuff. You'll be surprised, like even in your company, if you just hear what the people are saying in the emails, in the chats, in the corridors even. You will definitely be able to perform much better. Another gold mine. And you can monetize this kind of data. And you can say, this is how consulting, firms, like people look like in the consulting, how kind of issues they are facing, etc.
Now, since we are talking still about gold mines, I want to go back to infrastructure. How do you think repositioning infrastructure from being a cost center into something that adds more value and be a strategic enabler?
One more time. How?
You reposition infrastructure
Yes.
instead from being the cost
Yeah.
to be a strategic enabler and adding more value to the organization.
Yeah. Well, what you see lately also with AI and with AI machines implementing into the data centers, many more connectivity is needed on the infrastructure. Many more connections are needed. Higher speed connectivity is needed. So that's one part. And then if you go outside, you have to connect it to a user. And mainly, we still are thinking of users as humans. But it can also be machines. It can be automated cars. So if you have cars driving around, it needs to have a signal and it needs to be handled somewhere that the car is at that position. And GPS, of course, is helping with it. But if the traffic light is on red, the car needs to know it is on red to stop, and if it's on green, it needs to continue. That's not something that the GPS is helping on. So on the connectivity part and on the infrastructure part, that's really relevant also about data processing and data storage, because then you can also start doing predictive data reputation, because basically you want to have the car stop before the traffic light is going to be on red. And as mentioned, when you can data mine or data analytics, then you can predict it. With Netflix, if it is on pause, you get a thumbs up or not. So that part of the infrastructure is helping to structure the data infrastructure.
So you miss opportunities if you don't have this level of connectivity.
You miss the opportunities. And for autonomous driving, it's an example, but you can put it in all kinds of possible business scenarios.
I think we can take questions from the audience if we have a couple of questions. Since
I'm actually interested to see your view, guys, about how companies should deal with data as a strategic asset. Anyone cares to share his opinion?
ممكن أقول طيب أنا ممكن أتكلم كده عادي. طيب دلوقتي ممكن الشركة نفسها تشوف المتاح من الداتا عندها، تشوف إيه المتاح، إيه المصادر اللي عندها، السورسز اللي هي مغطياها مثلا أو مش واعية بيها، وتبدأ تشتغل إن هي تستغلها، تستغل الأسيتس اللي يعني تشوف ايه الامكان ايه يعني ايه الانسايتس اللي ممكن اخرج بيها من الداتا دي، ايه الاسئله اللي ممكن الداتا اللي عندي دي تجاوب عليها.
ان انا ابتدي باللي موجود في ايديا الاول.
ايوه.
Can you translate?
So he's suggesting that companies should start looking at their data.
Yes.
And the data that they are not
aware
overlooking
the available data.
But the question is this a one-man show? Can you do that without the proper sponsorship or not?
Can you decide to store any piece of data today? You will have to go through maybe like Wael will touch point on this a little bit, like from a management perspective, how to get approval.
Actually, let me give you my insights on this. Let me give you my take on this. What is the first obstacle to digital transformation in organizations? What is it? What do you think?
human resources. I think infrastructure maybe.
The what?
The infrastructure, the technology itself,
The
the
technology
device.
and the infrastructure. What else? The minds. Okay.
Human resource.
For resistance against the
This is it. The managers first. Managers are the first line of resistance to applying whatever.
They've been working for ages.
Yes.
Why
This is
do
it.
we need to think different?
Yes.
As a culture, you mean the culture?
No, I mean as knowledge
Knowledge.
and awareness. I've been delivering this program, this course in the MBA since 2017, and believe it or not, people are still not aware of technology use, and they don't know that we make decisions based on statistics. We all learn statistics in grade 9, and we forget about it, never use it again. Why? Data means statistics, AI means statistics. No one knows that very simple fact. So we need to start by raising awareness, educating people, especially management, not only young people, because if we have this first liner in every project that you need to have the support of the top management, right?
Yes.
The top management, they don't know, guys. They don't know.
In this case, if you maybe go to the chief data officer, right? He's the most better responsible. And then you discover there is no chief officer in the organization, right? So that means in order to convince the other leadership, if this is something worth, you need to invest, something small to show them the value so that you get their attention.
Thank you so much.
And then the ball will start to roll. If you say we need budget to do this kind of massive, data and AI program that will have this ROI in the next 1.5 years, they will probably don't, listen.
And by the way, let me tell you that 99% of the companies don't have either stored data. So to begin with, we need to start from collecting, deciding what are we going to collect. So, that's not it.
I was going to ask, but Ahmed already answered my question. So I wanted to see if the audience have other questions that we can take.
Yeah, I have a question.
The guys on the right, we need you.
We need you.
Yeah.
Actually, Ahmed is working for a very big firm, PwC, correct? And you are responsible for data and analytics, as well as you are exposed to cases with different customers. Can you give us a real case or of moving data to a strategic asset, either in your firm or for a customer?
So I have two small examples.
Okay.
One was big, huge company, and one was very small company. So small companies like the ones we talk about often have access to tweets, Facebook posts, messages, you know. And this was like manually led by social media, you know, manager and stuff like that. And when you try to introduce GenAI to analyze this massive data in batch and even in real time later on, and it will tell you this is the main pain points in your product. People who are, you know, using your products. This is the top 3 things that are painful for them, and this is the top 3 things they like about. And this company start to focus its attention into these number 1 and number 2 only, and you can imagine how much this drastically changes the company in very, very, very little time. So an example, also in a big company, airline, okay, in Australia, okay, and we started to analyze the data of the loyalty data of people traveling, and we categorize people into segments, and we call them nice names, okay. So one of them was called road warriors, and these are eventually the people who travel from point A to point B. Right now, they book the ticket just 2 hours before the flight. They don't care about the price. And then after 1 month, they travel again from A to B. So how the hell did they go back to A? They flew on another airline, right? Because they don't care about the money. And this segment, when we identify this segment, this is a lost opportunity. This is 50% lost money. If you tackle these people and talk to them, okay, how to make marketing, how to make, you know, targeted campaign for these people to book the round trip, it's a huge money lost. The other segment, maybe like pensioners, you know, pensioners already like, they want to book the ticket 1 year ahead, 6 months ahead. They want the cheapest, you know, and they book a lot of tickets, but way ahead. This is a different tactic. So this is 2 examples.
Yeah, but how the data was treated as a strategic asset in your, those are use cases.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Where is the strategic asset data in those tools?
So data is there,
Okay.
but you don't own it as an asset yet because it's lost.
But it starts from a problem. Like
Yes.
like it doesn't really come to a use case. It comes from a problem. So I guess in Ahmed's case it was like to improve the bottom line of the airline. So it's very pure commercial driver.
Yes.
Nothing more. But I guess maybe they were lucky because they had already all the data. In our case, the e-commerce customer we are talking about is, in our case, it's Al Arabi Group. Al Arabi Group is a very famous group in Egypt, and they work in electronics and stuff like this, and they serve many brands. So these guys wanted to improve customer satisfaction and increase the rate of answering to their customers and increase the sales through social media. So if they spend, I don't know how much on a specific marketing campaign on Facebook, they want to make sure that these customers, when they talk to the brand, they get the best results and they convert and the customers buy. So it's really driven by a money problem always. Like it's some sort of KPI.
I will give you.
I'll clarify my question.
I'll give you a real case.
Where is the strategic asset?
I will give you
dealing with a problem. And where in your solution you said that this data will be treated as an asset, so I will keep it and something like this. Where is the asset?
I'll tell you something because we are out of time, unfortunately. But we will be outside available because there is another session and she's like,
I will
15 times already.
But this is appreciate if I get business cards.
Yes.
Thank you everybody for attending, and thank our esteemed panelists for their time. And we'll have 5 more minutes outside. If you have more questions, you can ask them. We'll still be there. Thank you very much.
Yes.